What's up, y'all? Welcome to our internship extra credit assignment. This is a cool assignment because it is guided by your own interests and your own passions. Sometimes students finish this assignment and they decide to actually sign up for these internships, and they're off and away doing these really fun projects, doing their own thing, and I'm sure it's informing kind of their trajectory into their careers or what have you. So before we talk about the actual assignment itself, I wanted to talk a little bit about my own journey, and hopefully some of those things will be valuable to your own kind of experience. So out of high school, I really didn't do very well in high school. I was a pretty mediocre student at best. I was very passionate about things. I learned classical guitar. I knew a ton about botany and science and nature and all these things that have to do with ecology, but all of that was kind of from my own self-guided kind of research and things like that. And so it didn't really have any tangible, meaningful way to be kind of transitioned to academia. I just really liked nature. I really liked bird watching and things like that. So I went to community college. I went to Grossmont Community College in San Diego, and I started studying music. It's incredible. I love classical guitar. I can shred if I need to. And I slowly kind of realized that I really had an interest in biology. This was something that I cared about, but I was really kind of scared to delve into these kind of more difficult sciences because everyone was telling me it's very math heavy. And I knew that my school performance was mediocre. And so I kept imagining that there would be some limitation of what I could do because I had a self-imposed limit of what I could do as a student. So I kept doing music, and I started to kind of dabble in psychology, and I really hadn't figured everything out super solidly as far as the plan goes. And I had a modest GPA, we'll say that. I'm hovering around like a B/C average, so I'm not like an A student by any means here. So at some point, I decided, you know what, I'm going to try taking these kind of higher, like more difficult math classes. I took one, and I did okay. I didn't get an A plus, but it wasn't the end of the world. So then I started thinking, well, maybe I can do biology, maybe I can do a science. And so that became kind of information towards a possible kind of successful trajectory. And so I applied to transfer to San Francisco State. I kept finishing classes. I got my GETSKI form kind of figured out. And then I transferred to San Francisco State as an undergraduate, as a biology major. Now at San Francisco State, I met my own challenges there. I again had like a pretty modest GPA, and this was something that kind of freaked me out. We kind of pressure ourselves to hit this standard because we have constant feedback from our community that you need a really high GPA to do well in school. But I found these internships and mentors. I was really passionate. I really enjoyed doing field research, and so I found somebody that was a mentor. This was somebody that he saw that I was really great in the field. I was in his class, I did field trips, and I could identify everything, and I caught whatever animal, I'd catch it and identify it, and you could see that I really cared about ecology. And he saw that firsthand, and he didn't really care about the GPA. He said, you know what, you want to volunteer in my lab, you want to do an internship, do it. You're good to do it. So I did, and he became one of my great mentors. This is somebody who believed in me. He's somebody that kind of showed me the different ways that you can kind of grow as a scientist that are kind of separate from your GPA, right? So through him, I got involved with another internship through Florida State, and then I spent my first field season in the rainforest in the neotropics. Through this internship, I learned how to be an independent researcher. I learned about the process of primary literature and how primary literature is really the driver of a lot of STEM. I also learned about the neotropics and tons of different animals and birds and a lot of different systems in a really in a fluent way. I spent months down there, and so I got to really understand the system and start to ask new questions about what I was seeing, questions that had not been answered by science. I also became very important in this field setting to this crew, to this project. And so I got all these skills and I got my head aligned with what it might look like to actually become a scientist. I realized, oh wow, these publications, these experiences, the internships, these questions, these kind of they're kind of stokers of curiosity, are super important to helping you maintain motivation. I was so pumped when I got back from that first field season. I went back to my undergraduate classes. I mean, literally, I flew from the wildest places in the Amazon into San Francisco and walked into campus, walked into class within a day or two. It was super gnarly. But when I stepped onto campus that first time after that first internship, I had a completely new set of goals. I had a really clear vision of what I wanted, and it was very, very inspiring. I also started working on these primary literature pieces. I started writing manuscripts with other graduate students. I started befriending other graduate students and potential labs at San Francisco State and getting to know what those research projects were about, because maybe that would be something I would want to do. And I ended up publishing a paper before I graduated from San Francisco State. So while I did graduate from San Francisco State with a modest GPA, I also had a publication under my belt. And when you start to climb these echelons of science and academia, those kinds of tangibles, those deliverables, like a manuscript, like a publication, that is proof positive that you are somebody that follows through. And sometimes the ability to follow through and to be reliable, to be consistent, and to be able to hand in a deliverable on a deadline, sometimes that's more important than a GPA, especially when people know you. And so after I got my undergraduate, I organized kind of a strategy for getting into a graduate program. Now remember, traditionally a low GPA is probably a bad thing for getting into a graduate program, but there's so many people around that kind of already saw that I was able to do these things, and I also had all this experience and people that were willing to write me letters of recommendation, so I had a pretty good chance. So I applied and I got into a graduate master's program at San Francisco State, studying the system that I had already begun working on, and that is, the neotropics and communication and fear networks. Lo and behold, my GPA in my master's program was excellent, straight A's. Things have completely changed. Once you go into graduate school, you realize that in graduate school, academia is really buoying what you want to do. It's kind of sculpting your trajectory, and it's a really cool thing. We're not used to that in undergraduate. Undergraduate feels like, oh, I have to check off all these boxes, and it's a lot like high school, 3.0 or something like that. But as you get higher up in academia, you start to get in these environments that are really supportive towards your creativity. And I know it sounds weird to say science and creativity, but really science at a research level is extremely creative. You're asking questions, you're forming questions, you're doing all this stuff. I finished my graduate degree, and I did a really awesome project in that, and I had my master's, and I started teaching. I was in a kind of a horrible motorcycle accident, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to walk well enough in the field ever again. And so I decided to start teaching at community college or at San Francisco State as an adjunct professor, as an adjunct lecturer, in order to kind of continue being involved with this academic lifestyle while still being able to publish and do all these other things. And that's where my passion for teaching started there. But eventually I started to walk a little better, and I started to form a strategy for getting into a PhD program. So now I've had several publications. I have a graduate degree. My most recent academic performance is much better than all of my undergraduate and high school career, I'll tell you that. And so I wrote a letter up describing what I do, what I want to do, and I sent that letter off to a PhD program at UCLA. I was given a response within about an hour and a half from the lab that looked at my research, and the PI said, "This looks amazing, let's do this, let's write a grant." So with him and several of my other previous colleagues that I'm still working with, we wrote a big grant, and we got a big batch of money to fund my PhD, And so now I'm working on this big project with UCLA, Cal State Long Beach. We're doing this incredible research down in the rainforest. We study fear, we use live hawks, and we do this fantastic stuff. It's totally crazy. But I've climbed to these like positions, and I've developed myself as a scientist all from a beginning where I really didn't know if I would be able to even pass a math class. I mean, I really didn't know. And the thing that really made the big difference, the thing that sparked the big change in how I viewed what I could do as a scientist was that first internship, was that big internship, going into the field, seeing it firsthand, seeing how, what do they say, seeing how the meat is made or whatever, just seeing the background processes of science and seeing how, these are just people. This is just it's just a thing you do. It's not some crazy mystical, secret hidden behind the fog. It's like you get involved in a internship, the answers arise as you step into those positions and you see, oh, this is how you do it. And then you can start making a strategy for what you want to do. So how does that apply to you? That's my research focused kind of strategy. But maybe you want to do something else, but you're not totally sure yet. I want to work with kids in music. I want to work in psychology. I want to help the community. I want to do outreach here. Or maybe I want to be a business major and I want to do business internationally. Maybe, there's all these different avenues. And there's always internships. There's people that want help for free, basically. But once you do that, the value you get from these internships is not necessarily a paycheck. The value you get from these internships is getting to know people that have done it all before, and you get to ask them how they did it, what the challenges were, and then you can modify your plan to avoid those challenges. You also get to have a letter of reference if you want to do those things in the future. And you can also see if you like something or not. Heck, you might go into an internship and realize, I thought I wanted to do sports science. I thought that I wanted to study, how the human body is affected by all these things in sports. And when I actually started doing it, wasn't that fun for me. So you can get all that learning done before you even graduate from your undergraduate. So if there's anything you gather from this entire course, from everything we've learned, I know it's a very biology forward course, but if there's one little gem, it's that you should get involved with an internship in your desired field as soon as possible. When you do that, you'll be able to really focus on what you want to do and get a better understanding if that really is something you want to do. It might even bring up new opportunities that you can't even think about right now. I mean, if we had all the answers in our head already, why would we even be at school, right? And so when you go into these new environments, you get new possibilities given to you, new things to be curious about, new avenues to go with your life. And pretty soon you'll be having conversations with your friends and family about this new trajectory, and they're like, whoa, how did you know that that's what you wanted to do? And it's because you got involved with an internship. So for this assignment, what I want you to do is to look up an internship, and I'll give you some kind of starting websites and forums that you can look at internships at. I want you to look for an internship in the field that you're interested in. And it might be an internship that you can't even apply for yet. It might have qualifications that you don't have yet. Maybe they need a bachelor's degree, or maybe they require previous experience. I mean, some of these internships they have these crazy requirements, like you have to know how to use a Yagi radio tracking antenna and have at least 2 years of experience using a radio tracking antenna. And you don't have that experience right now, sure. Or you have to drive an ATV or things like that. So what I want you to do is kind of do an inventory, a self-inventory of what you do have, what experiences you do have that you could put down, if you were applying to an internship. Maybe you have a relationship with this professor, maybe you have this GPA, or maybe you have this certificate, or you got this scholarship, or any of these things can help when you're applying. And then I want you to look at an internship that you want and find things that you don't have, things that you need. Maybe you don't know how to use ArcGIS or some other kind of program. And I want you to make a list of qualifications you have and I want you to make a list of qualifications you would need to get this incredible internship that you're super passionate about. That's pretty much the meat and potatoes of the internship project. There'll be all the details. I'll write them all out. You don't have to remember it from this video. And there'll also be a little write-up on where you see yourself in 2 and 5 years, very similar to the write-up that we did at the very beginning of the semester. And this is going to be an extra credit assignment worth about a lecture's amount of points. So it's a good amount of points. You should do it. You should do it for yourself. If not, do it for the credit. And I hope you enjoy it.